I'm here. I'm a little late, but I'm here. I said I'd be late and I still feel bad, but I'm here. Hello. Hello, Red. Welcome in. You're first again. Hi. Rage, you're here too. Hi. Hi. Sorry, I was turning on my fan so you see me looking down. Hi. Hello. Hi. It is, as the title says, Fat Tibby Friday. I don't want to say the actual word because, you know, at least not in the title. Yeah. Hello. It's a Friday. What did I do today? Well, I actually did a little bit of Pokopia, a little bit of working out. I went. Where did I go? No, that was yesterday. I didn't do anything today, like outside. You know what I forgot to do? I forgot to check showtimes for the Mario movie next week. Let's do that right the hell now so we can figure out what it has to be. They do be massive, very much so. You know I can make them bigger, right? Ah. Anyway, I want to see some showtimes. Give me a second. You guys don't get to see it because I do not want to dox myself. But how are you doing, Red? Movies. Advanced tickets. That does not look like a movie I want to watch. Super Mario. Ooh, it's in 3D too. Ooh, should I watch it in 3D, chat? I'm doing pretty okay. I'm a little late because, as I mentioned yesterday, I had an appointment to get my car detailed, and unfortunately the time they had was in the afternoon, late afternoon, so it didn't start until 5 o'clock my time, and it didn't finish until like 45-ish minutes ago, so I had to rush my way home and get the stream prepared. So, but I will say my car's never looked better. I don't even think it's looked as good from the moment I bought it from the dealership. It is gorgeous, and I could show you guys a picture if you guys want tomorrow. I don't know. I don't know how many of you people are car people, so you know, people like seeing nice cars. But besides that, I'm curious how much more expensive is 3D. Ooh, there is a nice. Ooh, there are nice times. If I do this, then I do this. What's the price? Oh, that's not bad. Oh, okay. I know I know what time I'm going. Maybe what you want to see, or maybe they're big. I don't remember what we're talking about. Anyway, yeah. So I think next week on Wednesday I will be watching the Mario movie. I think based upon what I'm seeing, I already forgot what time it was set for. Ooh, they have an 8 p.m. show. Ooh, they have an 8 p.m. showing. I kind of want to watch it at night. Oh, watching it at night would be so cozy. All right, there's a good time. A good chance to, next week's stream on Wednesday is like a 3 to 7 or something. And then I just get to the movie once I get off stream. Because, as I mentioned as well, I'm actually going to be home alone next week, so I will be able to stream whenever the fuck I want. Twitch is really tempting right now. Is it because of gift subs being 35% off? Because I was actually going to mention that, by the way. Gift subs are 35% off for 5+ bundles for the next 2 days, basically the whole weekend. So if you guys want to make me, you know, go crazy about the love that I don't think I deserve, you guys feel free to, but you guys don't have to. You really don't have to. Never spend money on me. And I say that as somebody who's planning a subathon / donathon. So if you want to save your money for that, because it will actually be one that revolves around money, like in some form. I'm still thinking of details to make it low viewer friendly, like my small size friendly, and not just worry about like forcing 1 or 2 people to dump like, you know, triple digits on, you know, making it as big as it can be. I don't know, I'm thinking of details. You guys could also mention things too, I don't know, but my idea is just to actually have it be money, but have maybe like 1 or 2 stretch goals that could be channel points. I don't know, we'll see, we'll figure it out. I'm thinking about it sometime in June, honestly, for around my birthday time. I don't know if I'll do it for my actual birthday time. Maybe I will, maybe I won't, I don't know. Oh, 55 stream streak, oh my god. Like the reason why is because I actually want to plan, like, I'm not gonna lie guys, like full spoilers ahead, I may or may not have a new outfit in the works. I think I might have mentioned that at the start of the year, or at least the start of the year or the end of the year, one of the two. But I may or may not have a new outfit in the works, and I'm just waiting on availability from a rigger to, you know, get it rigged up. So we will wait and see. Bye-bye. So yeah, you guys are waiting on that pog. Yeah. I think something I'll do, by the way, is whenever I do like a little donathon or like a little marathon, because I'm thinking about doing like either a Zelda marathon or like a Pokemon marathon, because we know Winds and Waves has come out in a year. Make it like the top like donators or sub gifters in like a given month or something get a little preview about what I got planned. So, you know, that could be fun. I don't know if you guys think that'd be cool. I don't know how many people care about like sneak previews versus just like waiting for the debut, as my friend says. Anyway, I kind of want to get to gaming because I have Pokopia to do. I haven't done any of like the Team Rocket side quests since I stopped streaming it on Wednesday. Let's go over here. Let's stop the music for but a moment, and then we get the game in. As always, let me know how the audio is. It should, keyword should, be okay. I have not changed it since yesterday. I have not changed it since Wednesday is the bigger deal. But otherwise, it's time to get cozy again. Am I in bed? I am in bed. I have a new house, by the way. Hi, buddy. Anyway, I'm in Rocky Ridges right now because I'm actually trying to get it to level 9, in environmental level. Because by doing so, that actually unlocks, I think it was the arcade machine, which helps me get, helps me get, oh god, what's his name? Magneton, which apparently people say gives you a new form, which is kind of busted apparently. Grey Hut's all finished, so I'm making houses, I'm moving people around, like Volcarona is actually not in the volcano anymore. We have this hut that I need to furnish for people, get people to move in here. So we got that done. I got electricity going, so like this is all lit up, the stage is lit up, and by the way, when the stage is lit up, it, you know, does this. I need to put, what is this for again? Hang on. What does the speaker do? I don't know if this actually does anything, but it's fine. Anyway, hope you guys are having a good night. A good Fat Tip Friday. I've made people's houses a little bit better. I have a couple of new people, like I got Minchino, which is very cute. Toys ride, like a slide? Also, one thing I realized, I think once you get to comfort level or environmental level 5, you unlock like better music, which I think is really cute, very nice. I gave Cleffa a slide because they wanted a slide. Oh, Magmar, what are you doing down here, buddy? I have all of these things working. Like I just made this place a little nicer. I have, you guys don't see it, but it's in here. I have a water wheel that I just need to bring people over for. Wait, it's almost here. I think this is Arbok. Is it Arbok? Is it Arbok? Who's here? It's Arbok. Arbok. Nice to meet ya. Wait, aren't you scared? I hear Lugia, by the way. I'm not scared of you. Usually whenever I say hi to someone, they take one look at this pattern on my belly and take off running. Oh, it's scary. I'm not gonna lie, kinda hurts my feelings, you know? Seems fun around me, so we should be pals. Yes, we will be friends, Arbok. Pattern on its belly appears to be a friendly face. Weak foes will flee just at the side of the pattern. You like spicy flavors? I'm gonna give you a carrot. Also, did you know, I think it's true of every generation, but I believe every generation that has Arbok in it, Arbok actually has a different belly pattern. I believe that's true. I think it's every generation that it exists in. I don't think it's actually every generation, because I think it's not, obviously it is in every Pokedex because, you know, it's a Pokemon, but obviously it's not in every game outside of like trading it inside somewhere. This music is so nice. Oh, that's right. I need to go. Where the fuck did I put him at? I have to go somewhere. I have to get. Where are they? I don't have them. I need to go look for. I found some wall scrolls that I put away, but I need to go grab them. Anyway, I haven't done my dream island yet. We're gonna go legendary hunting. I think this is one of them. What is it? Sky Dream Island. Is that one? I'm gonna double check because I don't want to waste my daily Dream Island on a non-legendary having island. I will go hunting, but I want to double check. Sky Dream Island. Oh, it's Mewtwo. I don't want Mewtwo. We already have him. We already have his butt. His big butt exists in our game already. No. It is not one that I want to go. The actual place I want to go to, I need to make space, is... I have the doll already. Arcanine. I'll put this one down because it's kind of worthless. Cut this away. I have these tombstones because I have to make something with wildflowers. Because this kit allows me to get Cubone and Marowak both. So we'll put one here and hope whichever one we get actually shows up, because it's really hard to get people. But yeah. I need to also make something with mirrors. I need a closet. I need a mirror and 2 partitions, if I recall. Where are the partitions at? Where are they? There they are. 2 partitions. Wait, are they talking? Are they friends? You guys talking about something fun? No, they weren't. And I'll put you... Where will I put you? I need to put you somewhere clean. Like, actually clean. Because it's going to be Minchino. I think I'll put it next to my house. All the way over here. But yeah, put Volcarona and Murkrow together. I feel like they'd get along. I'll put you up here. Bah. Get rid of that. And we do this. Where's the mirror? We do that. And then... Nope. We... do that. Is that not how it's supposed to look? Where's Minchino at? Where are you at, my guy? Oh, it's specifically a dresser. Shit. Okay, get rid of that. Hang on. Give me a second. I got a DM I gotta respond to. More business. Oh, this song is nice. How do I get a dresser? Do I have to buy it potentially? I want to fix up this house too. It looks very ugly as is. Can I make a makeup stand or do I have to buy it? Oh, let's go look for it. I have to find and not even buy it. What the fuck? I believe I can't make a makeup stand, right? Shit. I could probably find it on islands randomly too. Shit. Scheiße. Okay, let me look it up. Google, Cerebi. Mr. Merrill, please help me. What was it called? I think it was makeup stand, right? Dress. It says dresser any. Oh, it's specifically dresser. Shit. Oh, I can. Can I not make a dresser? Damn. they can't make a dresser, huh? Oh, that's unfortunate. Just making sure. I have to trade it with a Gimme Eagle, really? Pallet Town level 7. Oh god, I'm not there. Give me a second. Shit, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? Give me an item. Come on, show me what I want. Found it. Ugh, doesn't help. Oh my god. Oh my god. I can't get any of them, never mind. Oh my god. Somebody's here. Who's here? It's Cubone! Ah, a human! Wait, maybe not. Are you a Pokemon? Yeah. Okay, guess I'm safe for now. This is nice and quiet, so I think I'll stay around here for a while. Let's be friends, okay? Mom probably would have liked this place too. That's so sad. No, don't, no. Where is the skull of its deceased mother? Its cries echo inside the skull and come out as a sad melody. Oh. The Cubone. I already forgot what flavor he wanted, I was so sad. First Cubone. Bitter, of course. Here, take a Rostberry. There you go. You can eat it. Sorry, I gotta send something. I gotta do something real quick. I'm a busy girl tonight, apparently. Oh, we'll watch him eat. Sorry, almost done. Okay, that we're good. Should be no longer be interrupted. Okay, so the problem with all the dressers that I found, by the way, every single one requires level 10 in a specific zone to like buy or like get the recipe for. So I'm not making that habitat anytime soon, and that's okay. Where the fuck am I going? I'm trying to go up there, but how do I climb? That's fine, because I do want to get this place level 9, so I will get there eventually, because I think this is one of them that has to be level 10 for one of the dressers. I'm still missing Tyrantrum's tail fossil, and I think I'm missing Shieldons? No, sorry, Bastiodons. Shield fossil or tail fossil. Hello, wanna play a quiz game? Sure, what's up? Doing every year, Cricketot? I think Cricketot, right? Oh my god, what? I guess Cleffa is bigger than Cricketot. I used to assume Clefairy was, or Cleffa was light. That's fine. Do you need anything, Cubone? You want a toy? Okay. Hope you like them. They're in range too, that's good. Does he actually like them? Real Kubo! How do you like them? Oh, he likes them. Okay, that's cool. It's time to just drop things off, right? I just need to make room because I'm gonna go item hunting, so let's actually make another one of these. I'm still waiting for Doxbun as well, by the way, because Fido's here and I have this waiting for Doxbun whenever he wants to spawn. But let's drop this over here. That way I know this is where all my stuff are gonna be. Oh wait, I need to drop off fossils over here so I can put them all together. What else can I put away? These things, I think. What? Oh, this is seashell soil, that's why. We'll put things away here just to make room. I think that'll be enough for now. Or something we're gonna put down. The music. Oh, looking right from the ads, by the way. I have so many duplicates of music, which I don't really care about right now. Anyway, we go here and there's a chance to find Entei, because it makes sense. Fire type for fire type. What's in here? Ooh, lots of... That's fine, I should have a lot of bread to mine with. Ugh. I'm so hungry. If you're wondering why, it's because I actually don't eat that much during the day anymore. I stop eating around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I suffer for 16 hours. And it's actually been working for me. I've lost a decent amount of weight. Not like insane amount, right? But I'm doing better. I'm getting healthier, which is good. Alright. Also, by the way, apparently, if you check the Pokedex, you can find out there's legendary in here. Is it because of the heat? No, I'm just... There's nobody in here. You see a third Pokemon. For dieting? No, I just want to eat healthier. So I'm eating healthier, but I'm also eating less, which is kind of like a twofold attack for me. I'm essentially trying to get my body used to eating less. That way I don't, you know, don't overeat, which is something that I would usually tend to do. Like I'm not like a nervous eater or like a bored eater like some people are. I just like eating. So like a lot of times if I'm eating something, it's just because I like eating it. I'm like, oh, I like this thing. I just keep eating it. I just like food, or I guess I like the food that I like, if that makes sense, right? Because there are people that like food and they'll eat anything. Me, I won't eat anything, but the things that I will eat, I will eat. I'm like Patrick when he was with SpongeBob's grandmother, where he's like, "Oh, Grandma, I'm so full. Here's more cookies." And then you go, just like that. I can do this a lot easier. Hang on. Sometimes I'm guilty of bored eating and I hate it. Yeah, I don't bored eat. I don't eat because there's nothing to do. I legitimately eat because I enjoy eating. Wait, does seawater behave differently than normal water? Is that what's going on? But yeah, if you're playing this game and you want to water lots of ground quickly, just do that. When you learn how to suck up water, which I forget where I learned it from. Tibby, honestly, a cat. Sorry, replace the B with a T. I misspelled. What is this? What is this? Pick it up. Oh, blooming tomato. You know. Sorry, if you ever see me like half off screen, it's because I'm literally like leaning into my chair to the right. Also, I fucking love the song that's in Dream Islands. Like, this song's great. It's a fucking good remix. You know. I want to get all these things because I do have a literal stack of railway tools. Or tracks, I mean. You know. Anyway, did I ever tell you guys about another VTuber persona that I created by accident when I was talking to a friend? Like, literally by accident, by the way. Don't think so? I'm pretty sure I didn't, but it's a really funny story. And by funny, I just mean like, it's funny to me in the case of like shit, I apparently came up with something funny. No, not the trank show one. That one I think is a good idea, but it's too rich for my blood. It's something that I can never realistically do because I don't know how to make it work personally. No, this is a different one. I've essentially came up with two ideas that people that I've told actually think are cool. Honestly, I don't know if the rats in a trench one's actually cooler, if the people that were talking about it were just being polite, because let me be honest, I've had a lot of experience lately of learning that the people that I thought were being polite were being friendly about things and like actually hyping me up were just being polite. seawater is differently than normal water. I just noticed it doesn't spread all the way out like regular water does. So like, I don't know if that's actually a good idea, or again, people were just being polite and being like, "Oh yeah, that's great," you know, the sarcastic kind of response. But no, anyway, the idea that I came up with a friend of mine, and if anybody's listening and wants to steal the idea, I don't fucking care. Like, fucking go for it, give me credit, I don't give a shit. But the idea that I came up with, it's a really stupid idea, because it's like it's half rooted in lore from that you could literally pinpoint to other franchises or series or video games. You're like, oh, that's just this. I'm like, I don't care, it's something I thought of, and then realize, oh yeah, it is similar. So what I thought of was, you know how a lot of like witches have like elementals, right? Like, oh, I have a flaming cat. I have a similar situation is like Annie in League of Legends. I have a flaming bear familiar, right? Or like all those anime with demons. Like, oh, I have this particular demon as my companion, right? The idea that I thought of, it's kind of a combination of One Piece and other medium, where it's a pirate water elemental bear familiar. So like it has like blue themes, like elements of like water on it, but it's like gnarled because it's, you know, waterlogged. And it is still a pirate, but it's obviously, you know, undead. And his name is Timber, because if you forget what pirates say, it's shiver me timbers. It's like the stupidest, corniest thing ever, but I legitimately, like, me and my friend thought it was like one of the funniest kind of raw things. But I'm like, I could never do this. I don't have like a furry artist that could make that shit work. Do they have peg legs? I was thinking potentially peg legs, at least one. It's certainly an idea of all time. Like, I don't think it's good. It's like you said, it's an idea. My friend and I were laughing because it was like, there's like a surprising amount of detail you can think of, right? Because there's like the whole water theme, the pirate theme, like the waterlogged zombie idea. But like, if you boil it down to its roots, it's quite literally just Tibbers from Annie in League of Legends, but as a water elemental instead of fire. Like, it's the same thing. I'm like, I don't care, I just thought of this shit on the spot. I don't play League anymore, so that was not my first thought. I don't care if you call this thing stupid. It's just an idea I had. But if you call it stupid, I will cry. I'm just letting you know right now. If you tell me my idea is stupid, even if I know that it's stupid, I will cry. It's stupid in a good way. Yeah, I feel like too many like avatars these days, whether it's VTubers or like VR chat characters or just things in general, right? Too many things to take themselves seriously. Like, I wanted something like very clearly inspired, but also a little silly. I haven't started mining yet because I'm just looking around the outside. Again, like the whole rats in a trench coat thing was also like something I thought of. That's like, this is a really stupid idea. There's a lot of whimsy, and like, yeah, it has a lot of options for fun. Because like, again, like the whole rats in the trench coat VTuber idea I thought of, where I forget if I mentioned this when I brought it up to people on stream when it came up, but my idea, like, to make it more like interesting than just 3 rats in a trench coat was it was 3 rats in a trench coat, but all 3 of them were different genders. One of them was male, one of them was female, and one of them is non-binary / transgender. I think that just has a lot of whimsy to it. Like, you could toggle which one's the head, essentially, and like if you wanted to do the whole, if someone's the Pokemon, exactly right. Yeah, use a voice changer too. I don't, you know, it's obviously not the greatest thing to use a voice changer, but that's always an option. But like the idea that I thought of was like, oh, the funny thing is I thought of this because I think, if I remember, I think Henya did this, where she had like the swimsuit outfit that she got, but like the titties were just water balloons, or watermelons, sorry, not water balloons. So like I was thinking it's something very similar, because like, you know, what the fuck, you're like right above me. You know, rats don't have titties, but when the female one's the top of the head, or the top head, I mean, the one in the middle is just holding water balloons that just give it jiggle physics. Like that one, I legitimately like thought of Henya and her swimsuit because of like that idea. But again, I think that could just be funny, just a little silly thing, like, oh, these are just 3 fucking like anthro rats. Why are there titties? And then you just open up the swimsuit, or not the swimsuit, open up the trench coat, and they just fucking have one of them holding water balloons. But yeah, I'm not smart. Like, all of my ideas are stupid. I have no creativity. Like, I literally thought of the most boring idea ever, just a dragon with purple hair and a dress. It's like, what's special about it? I don't fucking know. Massive titties and mismatched eye color. But then again, like every VTuber, quote unquote, with an asterisk, has a model with giant titties. Like, that's not unique. If I made them like oh, what's her fucking name? Milanoir? Is that the one? Where she has them like 4 times as big as her head? Like, that would be unique, but like just big is that's not unique. I think it's Milanoir, right? The black hole VTuber. Heard massive titties. Hello, yes, hello, Solaris. I was not talking about my own, unfortunately. I was talking about another VTuber. A lot of people see are pet-centric and see anime danger. Yeah, exactly. See, like, but still, like, Dragon itself is not unique. Like, one of the biggest VTubers in existence is a dragon. And like, I have no special features about me besides my eyes. Like, and even then, purple and red is just a pretty simple but good color palette. And yes, I am insulting myself right now. You guys can bonk me all you want about it. What else is down here? Ooh, habitat information. What do we got? I already have this. It's fine. I haven't made it, but I already have it. Everybody that is from there. Why does it repeat? So the reason why it repeats, I think, is because I haven't made the habitat itself. Even if I have all the Pokemon in that habitat. Here, I'll show you what I mean. You see these that are like grayed out, means I haven't made it yet. And then the ones that are not grayed out, they have either a gray Pokeball or a green Pokeball. A gray Pokeball means I've made it, but not every Pokemon exists in my Pokedex yet. Green means they are cleared out. And if you go down to the hot spring, which I think is, it's in this area, right? Where are you? Where'd it go? Here. I have not made it, but I have Lotad and Lombre, which also spawn in other habitats. Which, here you go. I'll make you take a look. Because I think every Pokemon has 2 habitats that they can spawn in. Sometimes different rarity, sometimes the same rarity. So, Lotad has 3 spots. I think I got him in the Duckweed. And then Lombre also has 2. So, I got him in this one, but not in this one. So, like, it essentially gives you habitat info that you haven't made yet. That one I already knew existed, by the way. So it's not new information. And I'm assuming eventually the trace of the Pokemon will also repeat once I get like enough choices, I guess. That's how to explain it. Wait, what the fuck? You guys see what I see? Look at him. I thought people were fucking... Oh, I know what I did wrong. So you do this, and I'm like, oh wait, nobody's in here. But I think I'm supposed to hit unknown. Yep. I fucked up. I just fucked up. So somebody is in here. Thank God I was starting the mine. I saw that and I'm like, ooh, that's a new area. Then I turned and I'm like, oh shit, it's fucking Entei. It's Entei. Hello, Stinky. Hi, Renix. Hello, Entei. Where are you? Hello, Daddy. And if you don't know why I call him Daddy, you've never watched the 3rd movie. I think it's called The Power of Unknown, if I recall the 3rd movie was. Hi, Nora. Hello. Papa, it is Papa, right? Yeah, either way. Give me a second. What kind of frame can I put on this? Oh, this works perfectly. What about filters? Meats are forbidden. I wish. Oh, that looks nice. Not the retro one. Hang on. Wait, wouldn't Delia like Delia catch him? Yeah, she would be. That works. There you go. Anyway. Hello, Papa. Can I help you? Oh, I dare say it's been a while since I've spoken with another Pokemon. I've been here for such a long time after all. Interacting with another Pokemon feels quite nostalgic. Wouldn't Delia be mommy? No, I would be mommy, not her. I suppose this is as good an opportunity as any to go outside. Do I actually get him, or what? Thanks, mommy, you're welcome. It is said that when it roars, a volcano erupts somewhere around the globe. That is true. I mean, what? Can I take you home? Oh, so you usually spend time around other Pokemon? If you wouldn't mind, would you please take me to where you all live? I would be delighted to. Oh my god. Not yet. We're going home, baby. We got the catch of the day. Okay, so it does appear that I have to go find Mewtwo again to get him to my island, or my habitat. Let's go! I need to make him... I'm gonna make him... what's it called? Oh, it's rare time. I'm gonna make him roommates with Volcarona. Hope you enjoyed the flight. A house? No, I have houses. I just was trying to figure out who to give him as a roommate. Hente, come with me over here. I have a buddy you'd like to meet. Motherfucker runs fast. He's the only one that can actually keep up with me. Over here. With Murkrow and Volcarona, you can be friends with them. There you go. Wanna move in here? Get in there. Hell yeah. 2 fire legendaries. If you don't know, Volcarona is actually not a legendary. It has like an event technically in black and white, but it is not a legendary. It is just a common Pokemon. Don't worry, no. I understand why you'd think it was from black and white. Hell, I thought Zoro and Zoroark were legendaries because of the Pokemon Ranger movie, I think it was. And I think it also had like a little situation with it as well. What you got? You want food? Okay. Wait, no. It is not a legendary. What? Not even it's technically not even a pseudo. You like bitter flavors. Alright. Have a Rossberry. Not even mythical, that'd be funny. Listen, if you don't want to be a mythical, you'd rather be a mythical like Celebi and not a mythical like Volcanion, which is in the same generation as Volcarona, I think, right? Or is Volcanion Gen 6? I could be wrong. Plaster. Yeah, Volcanion's Gen 6. So I was like, it's Gen 6. I don't know why I thought it was Gen 5. Again, I don't fucking know a goddamn... I don't know, not that I don't know a thing about it, I don't give a shit about him. Like, he is the most useless legendary ever. He has a movie, or mythical. He has a movie, and even then in that movie, he's a actual bitch, I think, if I remember. Like, he's a pussy. He's a waste of space in that movie. Like, no offense to Volcanion fans, but like, legitimately. Ooh, Skylax. I don't like his design. It's kind of weird. Like, Fire Water should be interesting. Somehow it's not. Like, legitimately, Fire Water should be really fucking cool. And it's not. Does he even have a unique ability or move? I'm pretty sure he does, but I just forget. What else to do but steam? Yeah, I was like, what is this signature move again? I already forget. Is it just Scald? Like water move but burn? Like basically scald. I'm trying to say, like, not actually scald. Again, I think I have a Volcanion in my fucking Pokemon home, and I've never fucking touched him. Let's take a look. Volcanion, what the fuck do you have? Alright, Cerebi, tell me all about him. His ability, Water Absorb Garbage. Very common. Unique ability, Steam Eruption. Yeah, it's literally just Scald. Boring as fuck. Yeah, it's just a double power Scald, essentially. Roughly. Give or take. His shiny's pretty cool, isn't it? Gold. Like, I'm okay with that. I need Plaster. I have Plaster, right? Maybe not. I can probably buy it if I don't. Yeah, it's all it is. Like, it's fine. But again, yeah, it's just a stronger Scald. It's not unique enough. Where's Plaster at? I need to make plaster walls to make this house pretty. Right. Here. Get away. What do you want? Brick ads, we'll type in exclamation point ads, or you could always sub, by the way. Wait, you're stuck in ads, you can't hear me. Haha. Where's Plaster at? Here you are. Oh, it's seashells, really? That's interesting how they use shells for plaster. Excuse me, Hente. I need a window for there, actually. Oh, too high. That's also a window. I need to break that window and fix it. Anywhere else that I need plaster or to get rid of plaster? No, that's actually fine. I need this. Put that there. That can go here. Also go here. Hey, I'm just trying to fix up his house to look very pretty. Looks like I'm gonna want 2 skylights there instead. Does the back need any repair? I can't tell. Needs a window, it looks like. 1 window, maybe 2. We'll put 2 windows. Oh, that window's actually worthless. Let's put the painted wall here. Let's close that up. Three windows or 2? I think we go 2. I need to make more painted walls. Oh my god, this house needs a lot of repairing. Holy moly. Holy moly, hot dog. Speaking of hot dogs, I actually had a hot dog today. Also, Ornix, I was gonna say, if you don't want ads, you can always sub. Subbing is always an option. Woohoo. Where's the plaster wall at? Or painted wall? need like skylights as well. Oh yeah, I have skylights, right? I made some. I did. I don't have money. That is absolutely fair. $5.99 USD is a lot of money. If you have Twitch Prime, or Amazon Prime, you do have Twitch Prime, so that's also an option. Oh, I need windows. Hang on, coming back. 799 mobile, do not, and I mean it, do not ever sub on mobile. That extra $1 or $2 that you pay on mobile does not go to me. It goes to Samsung / Google / Apple. Does not go to the streamer. Do not sub on mobile, please. Ever. Doesn't matter if it's me or anybody else. Never sub via mobile. That extra money does not go to your streamer. I would rather you literally go to Google Chrome, open up an extra window, go to twitch.tv on Google Chrome and sub that way, because it'll give you the website prices, not the mobile prices. Let us see what that way mobile and just throw us to it. Really? You can't open up like Google Chrome and do that? I don't think that's true, but I could be wrong. I feel like I've subbed that way before. Anyway, if it doesn't, that sucks. You know, Google Chrome tried to do something so if we have it. You know what the easy solution to that is? Just delete the app for a moment. You download it deep bios to make a full-scale build. You can. It probably takes too much work. That's what they give you Pallet Town, because Pallet Town is quite literally a flat, blank canvas that you can work with. That's also turned around. There we go. That looks very pretty. Clean. You need anything? Alright, what about you, Murkrow? What do you want? You want decoration. What do you like, though? I think you like shiny stuff because he's Murkrow. Crows usually like shiny stuff. Yep, shiny stuff, breezes, luxury fabric, shiny stuff, shiny decoration. Can I make anything for that? What song is this? This is... I know Pokemon Red and Blue reuse town themes. Is this like Celadon? Shiny stuff decoration specifically. What do we have that fills that criteria? Obviously it's not the only thing he wants, but it's the first thing I want to look for. Streetlights are not good. He's a dark type. He's not gonna like it. This could work. Oh, this could really work. That's shiny as fuck. It's something very funny is I don't have email for my Twitch anymore. Oh, I mean, you can change it if you're logged in. You can probably do it on the app. Like you could change the email that you're connected to. Plus, even if you don't, like, you could, worst case, make a new account. I'm trying to relax. That's fair. That is fair. I'm not trying to make you do anything. I'm just saying that's an option. Bam. I need electricity. He likes it. Get in there, buddy. Look at it. Yeah, he likes it. He's really happy. Hey, buddy, come down. Come on down, buddy. I won't talk to you. Look down here. I won't talk to you. Come on. Also, all these missions are because I increased the environment level to level 8. Buddy. Oh, I need electricity. Wait, I have electricity. Does it not reach? Oh, that'll be easy fix. Let's give you a generator. I have one more exactly. Did this not work? That looks ugly as sin. I don't want to put it there. Fuck, I think I have to put it on the ground. You know what? Oh shit. I destroyed the house by accident. You. Not you. 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 Hey, and you. Shit, I fucked up. It's fine. The reason why I fucked up, I actually needed a switch, not just the wall thing there. Because there's two wireless transmitters. There's a transmitter and then there's a switch, so you can turn things on and off as you please. And I believe Murkrow would not like that much light, so I need to make it a switch. Not a top or a bottom, unfortunately, specifically a switch. I have a wall switch too, don't I? I know I had one. Do I still have it somewhere? I know a couple switches. Yeah, me. Ooh, woo. Right here. Sorry, you guys didn't hear that. Me too. Hell yeah. Oh, I don't need the wall switch. I just need to... Okay, cool, we're good. You. Move in. I broke your house by accident. Move in. You. Move in. You. Move in. Everything should be good. How's your comfort level? Does it work? It does work. Perfection. And you? Also good. We're good. Is the dad from Pokemon Movie 3? It is, from The Power of Unknown, I think it's what it's called. Can I leave that on and put the wall switch here and have it work? Yeah, perfect. Wait, what? That's kind of funny. Actually, that is how it works. That was Mystery of the Unknown. I think it is Mystery of the Unknown. No, the power is the second movie. It's The Power of One. That's fun. Wait, it turned off and I can't turn it back on. I think, yeah, it's the second movie. It's called The Power of One. There you go. That works better. It is probably the Mystery of the Unknown. I only remember it's just the end of the second movie, the third movie. Because I think the first movie was literally just called Pokemon the first movie. And the second one is Pokemon 2000, which I think the subtitle is actually The Power of One. And the third one, I just remember Pokemon the Third. I think it's what it's called, like quite literally actually like Shrek the Third. Are you okay, Roly-Coly? He wants food. What do you like, Roly-Coly? Sour? Interesting, a rock-like sour. I have not a lot of Aspirers. Shrek the Third, there were some, but that's okay. I'm just saying, I'm pretty sure the third Pokemon movie is just called Pokemon the Third. And then the subtitle, I think it is Spell of the Unknown makes more sense because of actually what the movie is about. Not Power of Unknown. Maybe that was one of the first working titles potentially. Because it sounds right? Like Power of the Unknown. Or Mystery. The spells, because they're all letters. I mean, duh. I need one more level on Rocky Ridges to get what I want. If you're wondering what I want, I will show you in just a hot second. I thought it was funny. Listen, Pecunia, you're probably right, honestly. What the fuck is this? This is really fucking cool. Oh my god, I'm buying this and I know exactly where I'm putting it. Where is it at? Where is it? This. I need this. For Magneton. Pokemon Forever. I do remember Pokemon Forever. That movie made me cry. I don't know why. I just fucking love Latios and Latios. And just seeing Latios disappear and fucking die. God, made me sad. Spoilers for like a 20. Forever is Sylvie. Yeah, you're right. Latios is the fifth one. 5 is, yeah, I think 5 is Heroes. You're right. Forever is Sylvie. Because, yeah, we still have one more. There's still one more Gen 2 movie. Yeah. Huh. That's cool. I'll buy this. Pokemon Hero. Yeah, I think 5 is Heroes. 6. Again, I only remember the first probably 5 movies. After that, I'm lost just based on what comes out. I've probably seen them. I just don't remember which one's which after 5. Let's go back to Palatown for a second. Let's let the habitats that I've made have a chance to spawn. Wait. Speaking of habitats, I need to make one more grave. It's kind of a fucked up thing to say. I need to make one more grave site. Six is Jirachi. Yeah, that's probably right. 6. It would make sense. 6 is Jirachi and 7 is Lucario because remember, Lucario was Gen 4. I think that's the first Gen 4 movie. If it's not the first Gen 4 movie, if it's still technically Gen 3, that's one thing. But I think that's like the transitional movie, kind of like The Power of One was the transition from Gen 1 to Gen 2. Jirachi Wishmaker made me cry, specifically because May's song in Jirachi Wishmaker, I don't know why, it just made me cry. It was just, you know, someone going do 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 do, but it just made me sad. I don't remember the Lucario, the Mystery of Mew though. Wasn't that the one where like Lucario thought Ash was his master because they shared a similar aura? I think I've actually seen every single Pokemon movie based on the one you guys are naming. I've definitely watched Rise of Darkrai. That one was fucking crazy. I do remember the Shaman one. That one was kind of weird to me, but it was fine. And I definitely remember Zoroark and the Master Evolutions. Because if I remember, didn't Zorua transform into Dawn in that movie, if I recall? And that spawned a metric fuck ton, and I mean fuck ton, of art of, you know, Zorua-fied Dawn. Before Dark December Closet. I do remember that one too. That one was really cool because you actually saw Deoxys transform from its different like battle forms. Like you saw it transform from, you know, base form to speed form to, was it power form or whatever? Or guard form, whatever his forms are called. Like you just literally saw him transform mid-fight with Rayquaza. It was pretty cool. Speed attack, normal defense. Yeah, like you saw them transform. It's really cool. I also like the Pokemon movies as much as they're not canon, because they also introduce the concept that legendaries are not unique. And by that I mean there's multiple of each. The case in point specifically being the Pokemon Heroes, where they showed, you assumed Latios and Latias were the only ones of their kind, but at the end of the movie you saw Latias flying around with multiple baby Latios and baby Latias, I believe your card was. Which is even creepier because a lot of people in the not safe for work sphere draw Latios and Latias having relations, quote unquote, and I'm like, they're siblings. It's weird, but you know, people don't realize that or care. They just think it's hot. Remember all the order? I never remember the entire order. I just remember the first 5. Yeah, and forever there's multiple. I mean, it makes sense for there to be multiple Celebes because it's a time travel scenario. Like, you could just think of it as it's Celebi in different points in time, not just multiple Celebes. Like, that one you could argue to it not being, no, I'm not saying that it is the same Celebi. I'm saying you could argue that it is because it's the same, it's multiple Celebes and they're time travelers. Was one shiny? I don't remember. You're probably right. Again, it's been a while since I've seen those movies. But it of course is more likely that they are in fact like different timelines of Celebi essentially. Shiny was in the Zoroark one, that's probably true. But I don't remember like when all the Celebes revived the dead one, that it was there was a shiny one. Industrial beds, resort lights, office desks. I can make all 4 of those really easily. Let's go do it right now. Industrial resort office. Industrial resort office. IRO. 4 of each. Should have enough items for all 4 of them too. Industrial bed. Or its office desk, which is up here. Then it was resort light, which is down. Speaking of shinies, it's a movie that we haven't talked about yet, but in the Pokemon Black and White movie, which is the Victini movie, I think it's Pokemon White that has shiny Hydreigon in it. It's either white or black, one of them. It's the exact same movie. The colors are different in certain sections. And then in the opening scene, because you know every single Pokemon movie starts with Ash having a Pokemon battle, the trainer just has a shiny Hydreigon that I remember. A shiny Golurk might be true as well. Yeah, they just have shinies in there because they're like, oh yeah, we're just gonna be different. Give these people different colored Pokemon. It's just the shinies. It's cool. Their scenes are yes, I think the scenes are like mirrored, not reversed. And I think like the like cave they go into are different colors too. Outstanding! You completed part 6 of the Team Initiation Challenge. I always wanted to be surrounded by such high quality furniture. I mean, no, to let Pokemon live in a place like that, of course. Anyway, here's your favorite reward. Go ahead and take it. Game over. Hello, welcome in. Marshy badge. I wonder if we're gonna get to finish the story today. Probably not. We'll probably keep playing this next week anyway. With that, you'll always be able to fry eggs just the way you like them. Imagine. Never mind all that. It's time for part 7. What do we got? One washing machine, one refrigerator, one Game Boy. I can do all 3 of those pretty easily, actually. Anyway, game over. If you're here for Pokemon, if you wouldn't mind telling me your favorite Pokemon or your favorite movie. If you would like, feel free to lurk if you want. I need more Aspire berries because I need more sourness. I need another Aspire tree. I just didn't go to a place that had trees. I already forgot what I needed. I know one of them was a Game Boy, refrigerator, and washing machine. Easy. Oh god, I bet I can use my Pokemon now. Oh, did you guys see on Twitter? It's viral again. Somebody made like a home in the shape of a Game Boy system, and there's a ladder or a bridge between them that makes it look like a link cable. I think that's really neat. Crackle, cheat. Way to go! You made our way through part 7 of the Team Initiation Challenge. These things are definitely necessities no matter where you go are. Imagine a Game Boy being a necessity in 2026. Or even where in the future this is supposed to be. I've got a link cable for the Game Boy system. Oh my god, speaking of. So let's battle when you join the team. Imagine being a person who has never once in their life touched a Pokemon prior to the DS. Because I'm assuming a lot of people that play in this game are in their like early to mid 20s, which potentially have never touched a Game Boy Advance or even a Game Boy, and they're like, "What the fuck is a link cable?" Well, don't you feel dumb? Anyway, here's your reward for that mission: the Volcano badge. Next is the Earth badge. This badge will let you start a round of ideas. Oh. When you got that badge, you can eat spicier food or something. I don't need that. I'm already a spicy food fiend. Anyway, what's really important is the next mission because it's the last one. Part 8 of the Team Nation Challenge. Go get them. What? Take a photo. You take one photo right here, not just any photo. Imagine you have to leave all your friends and move somewhere really far away. You take the photo you want to bring with you when you go. Maybe it's your favorite scenery, your closest friends. You could be in the photo yourself if you want. Anyway, bring just one photo like that. That's kind of sad. Oh shit. I need to find Dedenne. Do I have Dedenne already? Never finished that quest. Where's the Dedenne? Oh, I just never been to the Skylands. Let's go do that. I never went back to the Skylands and went back to oh, also by the way, people were right. The Skylands is Saffron. Earlier today, I found a note on the ground in the Skylands, which said, it was an ad that said, oh, the Paralyzed Heal, I think, is 25% off at the Saffron City department store. So yeah, it's actually a Saffron. People were right. I still thought it was Celadon because it looked like the Celadon department store, but no, it was the Saffron City department store. My bad, I was wrong. The internet was right. I still think it should have been Celadon, but that's fine. I don't use Twitter anymore. That's fine. I kind of have to. Being a creator, I have to at least try to have social media. Oh, I can make laptops now. Hell yeah. Are they fighting? Slow King, please don't fight with the child. I will wait for the ads so people don't miss out on this interaction. It is actually a unique one. Oh yeah, apparently a new booster pack for Digimon trading card game came out today. And it's I think it's the first set that features reprints. Because it seemed like a big deal that there was reprints in there. I'm saving my money though. I'm gonna get the next trading card, Pokemon trading card game pack that comes out. The set. I forget what it's called already. But it has like a whole bunch of megas in it. Not the one that's out now, which is like Perfect Order. Not that one. Or even Ascended Heroes, not that one either. Because I know the new set surprisingly doesn't come out for 2 months, which is actually a really long time in the Pokemon merch world. Anyway, we can recommend the ads. We have a unique interaction between Slowking and Tyrogue. Oh no, Tyrogue, dear, you're injured. Are you alright? Yeah, I'm all good. I always get like this after training. Gotta work hard if I want to get big, strong muscles. I'm sure you will, dear, but please don't overdo it. If you really want to grow strong, you need to prioritize recuperation and good nutrition. True. Recuperation? Nutrition? That just means getting plenty of rest and plenty of food. Speaking of which, I got a present for you. Whoa, that looks yummy. Thanks a bunch for looking out for me, Slow King. That's actually really wholesome. And there's more where that came from. Here, take this, too, and this, and this. You're so young, so you need get plenty to eat. You sure? This sure is a lot. I don't know if I can eat it all. You know, I just happen to have some time on my hands right now. I'll just keep you humping until you eat all of those up and fall into a nice, refreshing sleep. No thanks. If I ate all that, I won't be able to move. That's actually really wholesome. Slowking being like a big sister is really cute because I actually kind of treated Slowking like he is in the first movie where he's just like some dude who's just standing there telling Ash what's happening. I can make this photo, by the way, or this poster. Oh, I just stole it. I could just make that one though, I think, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, second movie, The Power of One. Is that not what I said? I just like to the first movie. No, I said The Power of One. Maybe you thought one meant the first movie, but no. Power of One, second movie. Also, all the remixes of the Pokemon themes in the movies are just fucking peak. Like when what I think the second movie has it, maybe it's the third one, but when they did the remix of the first Johto theme, fuck, that song fucks. If you haven't heard like the second or the whatever movie has the Johto theme in it, like the Johto theme remix, like fuck, you gotta hear it. Sorry, I'm breaking that just to replace it. There we go. I see a broken window, I want to fix it. All the movie releases are peak. No, they absolutely are. Yeah. They kind of have to be, because I think the first 5, maybe 6 Pokemon movies were theatrical releases. I'm pretty sure Latios and Latias was a theatrical release, if I recall. I know the first 4 were for sure. There were things at the beginning of Ash finding a Dawn fan during that. I'm just saying, whichever ones did have it. I just don't remember, obviously. Nah, nice to meet ya. Sorry to spring this on ya, but do you know where there's a power outlet somewhere nearby? I gotta charge up a little. Oh, also, I'm straight up starving. Let me know if there's any around here to find some berries around here. I'm gonna be living here from now on, so you and I are besties now. Yeah, besties! Also, if you're wondering about Ash fighting a Dawn fan, that might have been the first movie, because they actually showed off Dawn fan in the first movie before Gen 2 was even announced. Antenna Pokemon. A Dedenni's whiskers pick up electrical waves other Dedennis send out. These Pokemon share locations of food or electricity with one another. Sweet flavors. Alright. There's another Pokemon in here, I think. What's wrong, bestie? What? Pikachu's looking for me? I gotta see them right now. Come on, what are you waiting for? We have to go. Lead the way. Ah! I can't scream. Pokemon doesn't make sense most of the time. I mean, a lot of it was also very much just like teasers. They straight up, remember, they teased Ho-Oh in the first movie, or the first episode. What's shaking here? What am I hearing? Is it a floor above me, potentially? Because it sounds like there's a Pokemon trying to spawn. It is. Would this be Carbador? Oh shit, Electivire. What's up, buddy? Hot dang, what an electrifying good spot. Just perfect for me, if I do say so myself. Well, howdy, you live around these parts too? Oh god, he's southern. In that case, how about we really brighten up this place and make it even more fun? I'll help you as much as I can. He's southern just like Gyarados. Yeehaw, partner. The Thunderbolt Pokemon. I've never used Electivire in any of my playthroughs, ever, by the way. A single Electivire can provide enough electricity for all the buildings in a big city for a year. Sounds about right. You like Sawa? I will give you the Sawa. No. I forgot. Motherfucker with Crush can make paint. There you go. Yes, as that states, don't forget, there is in fact discounts on gift subs for the weekend only. TBH ever for Digimon? That's fair. I would probably prefer Digimon anime most of the time, but the games are getting really good. Like before like 2015, I would personally state, like my personal opinion on Digimon versus Pokemon, like that whole discourse is Pokemon has the better games, Digimon has the better shows. That wasn't to discredit the Pokemon anime. I think the Pokemon anime is good. I just think the Digimon anime is better in a lot of ways. It's a lot darker. It's a lot more. It's a lot more oriented towards. Ooh. Oh, I can make Steelix. Oh shit! I need to make this for Steelix then. Again, that was my opinion as of like 2015. But once like the Digimon Story series started coming out, I think the gap has closed. I think since basically the Pokemon anime, ever since I think personally Pokemon XYZ, maybe XY period, but XYZ for sure, has started to get on par with the Digimon anime. And I think Digimon, ever since Digimon Story came out, like Cyber Sleuth, I think the games have started to match in like quality with Pokemon. And that's not to say Pokemon obviously has no quality, because I know a lot of people want to say Pokemon is shit these days. I think that is 100% not true, but people have their opinions. Oh, you found me. And here I was hoping to ambush anyone who came by and suck their blood. I must be losing my touch. Wait, no. Maybe you have super keen senses? You don't look like you do. That's the feeling I'm getting. Like your looks are deceiving or something. Oh, let's be friends, yeah? Ugh, I'm so hungry. It's just so easy for the most more recent Pokemon games. Here's the thing. Every Pokemon game after Gen 4, maybe 5, I think once they went to 3D, every Pokemon game has been easy. I already forgot what he likes to eat. And people have just grown up and realized that Pokemon games aren't necessarily the most difficult things in the world anymore. Dry. Now, have they gotten easier? Probably, yeah. They've gotten more accessible, but that doesn't mean they're not difficult. Like, essentially, the difficulty in Pokemon used to be, like here, let me explain what I mean by about Gen 6 is when it stopped getting hard. So, Gen 6 is when they introduced experience share for all, I believe. It could be Gen 7, but I believe it was Gen 6 where they introduced experience share for all. That removed the need to grind a single Pokemon at a time. So essentially that made it to where you could, for the most part, stick with one strong Pokemon and just have your other Pokemon members be at a relatively similar status. I'm going the wrong way, by the way. I need to go to the other exit. Still be competitively viable in your game without needing to spend time grinding them to the same level. So people are saying Pokemon games are easy now, specifically because they don't like the idea that their Pokemon don't have to participate in battle to remain a similar, if not exact, level to their strongest Pokemon. And they think that removes challenge, which I think it does to a degree, but at the same time, you can fix that yourself by not grinding as much. You can do Nuzlockes, you can do, you know, minimal grinding challenges. You can do challenges where you don't fight anything besides trainers. Like there's ways around the difficulty that Pokemon has introduced recently. They should have had the option to turn experience your order off. I think not giving you the option is fine. They very clearly want you to not accidentally turn it off if you're like a child. Like, they want their games accessible. Everybody wants their games accessible. That makes sense. But again, Pokemon games aren't easy. They're just more accessible because now you don't have to grind for hours at a time to get everybody to the same level. Like, here's the thing. You go look at people playing Fire Red and Leaf Green for the first time that have never touched a Gen 3 or earlier game. They're having a tough time because they have to grind. Because they only have one leveled up Pokemon, and if it's being countered by what the gym has, you have to go grind. I think Experience still exists there, but I think it's one-off, not whole team. But like people are realizing Pokemon games used to be hard because they're used to EXP share being on all the time for every Pokemon for everything that you do. Yeah, there's XP share item. Yeah, exactly. I know. Again, I played all these. I played every single one of these games. It wasn't a key item before. It was a held item. You could only level up one Pokemon at a time with the XP share. I know. Trust me. But people are learning that shit's hard because you have to fucking go grind. Otherwise, you're terribly underleveled. Because there's no free XP anymore. I played... Yeah, that's literally why I said it, by the way. I played these games before because it's fucking true. You don't need to tell me. I know. There's little I don't know about these games because I've played them all. Pikachu! It's been forever. I missed you so much. Why, my dearest Dindinity? It truly has been quite some time. Yeah, it really has. Something troubling you? Dang, I just have so many things I want to tell you. Alright, I'm all jumbled up. I don't even know where to begin. The Danny might have ADHD. I'm such a nerd. I am a huge nerd. Like, Nintendo is like one of the few things that I know so much about. Pokemon being one of them. Take all the time you need to, Danny. I'm glad to see you're so full of energy. That rambunctiousness suits you. Yep, that's me. Full blast all day, every day. I don't even need to steal all your electricity to get all charged up anymore. So promise me use the electricity you make just for yourself. Because you can make a whole bunch of it. Oh, who's gonna tell him? Unlike, some of us. I read what you wrote a second, Rage. I have to finish this cutscene. Why did Danny? Hey, how come the Danny gets all the attention? I want to talk to you too, Pikachu. Yeah, I want to talk too. Oh, it's Toxel and Pichu. Long time no see. Oh, it's just like the old days. We have you to thank, Red. Well then, now that we've all gathered, I have something to show you all. Give me just a moment to prepare. Oh, is he gonna illuminate? Alright, here I go. Ah. Oh wow, so sparkly. I knew you had it in you. That is beautiful. Gee, I'm so happy you enjoyed it. Hope I can make that much electricity someday. I'm quite certain you all will one day. Really? Then I'm gonna practice generating every day. Me too. And me. Before I forget, can I ask one last favor of you, Ren? What's up? Would you please keep the fact that I cannot generate my own electricity between us? I kind of figured. I was like, yeah, you're not gonna wanna. For now, I just want them to keep seeing me as a Pokemon that I can rely upon for anything. That's cute. You want food? Oh, that's so cool. What does Pikachu like to eat? Sweet flavors, of course this person would want sweetness. Anyway, later play Pokemon Diamond, run my turn to Victor Terra, had to learn Earthquake, move through the rest of the game, one shot almost everything, including my own Pokemon sometimes. Yeah, again. Good night, it's almost 1 AM. Have a good night, Ornix. Oh, you're East Coast, almost 1 AM? Yeah. But yeah, no, again. Have a good night, enjoy the rest of your time. Good night. But yeah, like people that say Pokemon games are too easy these days aren't giving themselves enough of a handicap. Like if games are easy, make them harder yourself. Like people say, oh, Pokemon should introduce a difficulty level. Yeah, sure. But if they don't, do it yourself. Like, should difficulty settings exist in video games? I think so. Is it bad if they don't? No. If you find the game is too easy, do a challenge for it. Like people that are bored by normal Dark Souls, they do like Soul Level 1. They do Hit List challenge. They do challenges with the weapon they've never used before. Like there's ways to do challenges to make a game fun again for you. That's why I don't necessarily think the excuse that the games are too easy That's like a good excuse. It's like you can do it yourself. You don't need. I was gonna play Dark. You want to play Dark Souls 1 again? Yeah, there you go. If you find the game too easy, use a weapon you've never used before. You know, things like that. Like me, when I play Pokemon, I just don't grind. Like, I don't fight wild Pokemon unless I have like a whole brand new team. I just fight trainers, and that's usually enough to keep things relatively even. I think that's how Pokemon has been designed, is if you just rush the story, they give you just enough experience to be competitive. Or like how I'm playing Pokemon Violet. I need to get back to it, but I'm gonna get back to it eventually. Where I'm using Pokemon that I've never used before, Pokemon that I don't necessarily like. So it adds an extra challenge because I don't necessarily know their strengths. Anyway, that was my TED Talk on how I honestly dislike the argument. Pokemon games are too easy now. That's why I don't like modern games. It's like, just say they're not for you anymore. Who's selling? Zoro, what's up? What are you selling? I don't like them, but I want to give you friendship, so I'm gonna buy it. 2,000? Oh, you know what you want. You want tomatoes. You can have 40 tomatoes for that plane. Here you go, buddy. It's funny because, like, it's so easy to just use food. It costs 50. 50 per, and you get so much for a bundle. Anyway, basically done on this area. I'm still waiting for the Blaziken to show up. Blaziken's still not here, of course. That kind of sucks. Oh, looking good. Recipe for a letter. Ooh, I can put letters out. Alright, cool. Where's it going back to? The ridges, I guess? Oh, that's the Skylands. I guess no matter what, I have 2 loading zones to get to the next area. Back to the ridges. I need to get Steelix too. I need Bulldoze. Oh shit, oh god, I need to go back to Pallet Town and get a Bulldoze Mon for over there. What time is it? I don't want to stay up too late because I have not been sleeping on time. Not that I haven't been sleeping well, I haven't been sleeping on time, so I've been very tired recently. I think I'm gonna go check on Pallet Town and then Rocky Ridges, and we'll stop for now. Oh, who's up there? Is that Pidgeotto? It is. What's up? What do you want? Thanks for being rad. I'm not rad. You're rad. What am I missing here? 2 things? I have potato plants or tomato plants, don't I? Oh, potato. That works just fine. Oh, that's coming soon. Also, something I realized, if you remember, sometimes I look for Pokemon and they don't exist. Like, people say they haven't found them. It's not that it's not that they disappear and I'm about to lose them from my world. It's that the game can only supposedly render 20 Pokemon in your world at any one given time. Which makes sense. But I didn't know that, which makes sense why some of my Pokemon just disappear and I have to use honey to spawn them, because by using honey, I spawn them and I despawn somebody else. Stretch? Okay. Okay. Oh, thank you, Red. Yeah. Keep getting the same fucking fossils, man. Fudge! Hi, Fudge! Welcome in, Fudge. What? Hope you're having a good time this Friday night. We're just winding down. We're actually about to stop in a little bit. Bye. Just got home. Welcome home then. Demon Ganesh. I know it's Demon Nash. Hi. Or Demon G Nash. Hi. We got our follower goal. Oh my god, we're at 450. Thank you. You're the 450th follower. Hope you're doing well. If you'd like to tell me your favorite Pokemon, feel free to mention it. Feel free to tell me your favorite movie too if you watch them. Hi, Munchlax. Whoa, hi. Nice to meet you. Actually, oh, sorry about that. I had to look up a little while ago, so I'm pretty hungry. Just gonna look for some food in a bit. Here's a thought. Did you know Vaporeon is the most huggable Pokemon? Yes. Can you transform into any food? I don't want to be eaten. Oh my god, he wants to devour me. When it's voraciously gulping down food, it forgets about the food it has hidden under its fur. That's kind of funny. Why is Munchlax that small? I mean, Munchlax is kind of small. It tells you right there. It's 2 feet tall. Dry flavors. Like, honestly, this might probably be the most accurate Pokemon I've been, roughly, right? Because Onix is fucking huge. And, like, these people are just, like, average height. Grubbin is fucking tiny. 2 feet but over 200 pounds. Motherfucker's dense. Like, dense. He loves eating. They're playing tag. Look at them. Thought they're a little bigger than that. Nope, 2 feet tall. You want decoration. What do you like for decorations, actually? Where's Munchlax? Should be where Mosslax is, because Mosslax is just the, just a Snorlax. Soft stuff nature looks like food. Wobbly stuff looks like food decoration. Like a lamp or something. Wobbly stuff would be tires, surprisingly. Tires are decoration, not toys, right? That's a fucking toy. What was it? Looks like food, soft stuff. Looks like food decorations. These things are not decorations, right? It's relaxation. That's a little different. There it is. Looks like food. This will work. Electricity. Volt, I need you. Power it on, please. Power it on, please. There you go. Thank you. There we go. Cool, we're good. Palatown's done for now. I need to figure out what flowers I'm missing. That's what I'm trying to say. Quiz time. What's Cramorant like? Breeze is definitely not garbage. I need a home. I need to put more stuff in here. That's what's going on. Oh, let's put the poster in here. We'll put it right there. Should put it up a little bit. Hell yeah. Where's Eevee? There's Eevee. I say is Espeon sleeping standing up? No. Does it not have a mouth? Oh, it does. Oh, the mouth doesn't show. Oh, that's actually smart. I like that. Pokavolt and Machop need better stuff. What do you want, Machop? Food? Oh, spicy? Oh, you got a carrot, baby. High carbs, baby. Got a carbo load, my boy. It was Machop, it was Tinkatuff. Where's Tinkatuff at? Don't growl at me. You want decoration group activities? What does that mean? Like a toy? I guess a toy? No, it's not a toy. Table setting, I guess? That could work. Ooh, berry basket could definitely work. This would be a group activity, right? What? I guess it doesn't count. Shit. Whatever, I guess you get nothing. Look at poor little Sylveon. It's kind of pretty, actually. How does this look? Oh, that looks really nice, actually. The pink on the pink. What about this? Oh my god, it's so vibrant. Give me that. Anyway, Magby, you got in the way. That's okay, though. Last thing, we go to Rocky Ridges, check in on people one last time, and then we'll be done for the night. Also, can I just say I really appreciate how many of you guys show up every single day that I stream? It actually means a lot because I know, you know, it's hard to plan a schedule to be around for certain things. And I know I also stream very late compared to most people's schedules because I'm in the West Coast, not the East Coast. Yeah. Meow meow. God, I want to go find that person who has the island that like, hey, visit and you can just take pictures of things to 3D print. And I want to find the fucking Tyrantrum tail so I can just finish that motherfucker off already. Because I have so many fossils and so many of them are fucking duplicates and it pisses me off. Is Marowak here? Almost every Pokemon? Nope, I have no idea how many Pokemon there are, and I have 189. I don't know how many there are, but I have 189. Don't tell me the number. I'm just playing the game. That's a lot of them, 189. I'm assuming it's like 250, maybe 300. Probably an even number, but nobody tell me. I'm just playing the game. Besides, I think the only one that actually knows that answer is fucking Joe Merrick of Celebi. Cerebi, sorry, not Celebi. Don't. I am not gonna say that number. Fucking. What's up, Machino? You almost got me. What you got? What you need? You want to ride? Oh, shit. I'll show you a ride. Sorry. Toy ride. The fuck can you ride? A slide, I guess? Just double check. It was toy, right? Not decoration? Yeah, it's toy. I guess slide works. Yeah, the slide you ride. Is there anything else you ride? Not really. That's not a toy. I was gonna put the wagon there. I think it is the slide. Oh my god, 5. Can you ride the Pokemon? Nope. You can turn into them. Like... And then if I'm in the water, I can turn into Lapras, and like, this is... Like, I just literally transform into them. Shit, where can I put this to not have it block? Maybe here. Do they actually use the slide or no? Yay, Min Min! You actually ride it or no? It didn't work. Shit. Whatever, I'll keep it there. I don't know what else you ride, I'm gonna be honest. Besides people, obviously. Do you need anything, Toxel? You're finally back. Relaxation. What do you want to relax with? Where is he? Right here. Relax electronics. Shiny, noisy glass. Huh? How does... what? Okay, so my assumption is dealer's choice. I guess a gamer bed would work for you. Funny enough. Do I have a gamer bed here? Let's get you a generic straw bed then. We'll give you this. Just basic. Alrighty, let's drop this off and then we'll stop for tonight. It is getting very much to the time I'd rather get myself at least ready for bed, if not in bed. There you go, you got a bed. Away from your iPad, because remember kids, do not let your kids play with their iPad in the bed. Oh, that's really cute. He rubbed his eyes like a baby does. Okay, it works. Alright, what's my level? How close will I be to level 10 by the time, or by level 9 by the time I come back next week? Halfway, Jesus. I need to fix things for those two down there. Alright. We will finish up here for now. That was fun. That was cozy. Cozy as it should be. Let's get our butts back over here now. Let me turn my music back on. Ba 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 ba. Alright. We are done for now. We are done for the week. Right now, if you were going to, this is the last chance you will have to get this to gift subs at a discount. Remember, it's got to be groups of 5 or more. The reason why is because it's only for the weekend, and I'm not going to stream the weekend because I work. Anyway, we are done for the week. I will be back next Wednesday. There's a very, very good chance that the streams next week are earlier than usual. I'm gonna try potentially for like a 3, maybe a 4 p.m. start Pacific, so that would be 6 p.m. Eastern or 7 p.m. Eastern. I was not going to say those two numbers together. You almost caught me. But yeah, it'll be 3 or 4, maybe even earlier if I can. Wednesday for sure is going to be early because I definitely shut up. I definitely plan to go watch the Super Mario movie at night, which my area is having showings at 8 p.m. I could do daytime and stream later at night. I'm like, nah, I think going to the movies is something you should absolutely do in the evening because I think it'd be cozy that way. So yeah, you'll see the schedule next week. It'll be probably the same stuff for the most part because I'm having a lot of fun with Pokopia, even though I'm pretty sure I'm probably done with the story very, very soon. But I'll probably keep playing. As for every day, I don't know. Depends if I'm still in the mood for it every day. What else? Yeah, I don't know. I've been in kind of a rut of what to play. So like, I don't know if I want to just keep doing Pokopia until like actually burn myself out of it, or if I want to take it slow and like bring one of the other games that I put on hold back. Because like I still have the Pokemon Violet playthrough that I was working on. I still have Elden Ring I have to go back. I haven't gone back in like 6 months, maybe more. What else did I put away? Chrono Trigger still has to keep going. Well, like, I have options. I don't know. Maybe we'll do that next week. Maybe we'll keep doing Pokopia. I don't know. Anyway, no rating. I'm gonna get myself to bed because it's pretty late for what I usually want to go to bed at. Anything else? Not really. If you guys are new to the stream, feel free to check out my Discord. The link is down in the description of the stream. But other than that, you guys have a good night. You guys have a good weekend, and I'll catch you guys back here on Wednesday, okay? Kisses for you guys. Good night. Bye.